It was nearly 2 a.m. when Noah Foster saw her. He had just finished his overnight shift at the recycling plant. His boots soaked through, the ache in his back dull but familiar. The rain came down heavy, slicking the streets and glinting off the faded yellow lines. As he walked past the old overpass near Maple and 5, he spotted her, a girl sitting alone on a soaked duffel bag, arms wrapped tightly around herself, head tucked low beneath a hoodie. He slowed. "This ain't a place to sit around," he said quietly, keeping his distance. "Not at this hour, not in this weather." The girl didn't look up. "I'm fine," she replied, voice tight. "Keep walking." Noah shifted the strap of his work bag across his chest. His jacket was already dripping, but he didn't move. There was something in her posture, not just exhaustion, but a kind of silence that didn't come from the cold. It came from somewhere deeper, a silence born of shame or fear. "You get stuck out here?" he asked. She glanced up. Her face was pale beneath the streetlight, strands of wet hair plastered to her cheeks. "I'm not asking for help." "Good," he said, "because I'm not offering charity, just warmth. I've got a couch that doesn't leak and a heater that mostly works." She hesitated. "I'm not that kind of girl," she muttered, defensive. Noah exhaled. "Look, I've got a kid at home, a 6-year-old. Her name's June. We eat cereal for dinner and argue about bedtime. I'm not bringing you home for anything but a roof and a dry towel. That's all." Her eyes flicked toward him again, cautious, unreadable. Then she stood slowly, shivering, and picked up the duffel bag. One night, he agreed. They walked in silence, the rain tracking their steps. 2 blocks away, Noah unlocked the front door to a small, run-down duplex that smelled faintly of lavender and cheap soap. The living room was clean but lived in, with worn cushions and toys tucked into baskets along the wall. "You can leave your shoes there," he said, pointing toward a mat by the door. "There's a dry sweatshirt in the closet. Bathroom straight down the hall. Towels are folded on the sink." She nodded but didn't speak. He watched her disappear into the hallway, then scribbled a quick note and left it beside a steaming mug of water on the coffee table. It read, "Landline's by the fridge. Door clicks shut if you need privacy. My kid's a light sleeper, just don't slam anything. Rest easy." Then he disappeared into the back room, where June slept, curled around a stuffed rabbit, her thumb half in her mouth. The scent of something slightly burnt woke her. Mira blinked against the light filtering through the half-closed blinds. She had fallen asleep curled into the edge of the couch, still wearing the oversized gray sweatshirt Noah had given her. For the first time in what felt like days, her muscles weren't clenched from the cold. She sat up slowly, eyes scanning the room. The house was quiet but alive. Faint sounds came from the kitchen plates clinking, water running, a child's laughter rising and falling like a breeze. Mira stood, wincing as she moved. Her knees still ached from sleeping in an awkward position. She stepped toward the doorway and paused, her hand resting on the frame. The kitchen was small and bright with morning light. At the table sat a little girl in a faded yellow pajama set, carefully stacking slices of toast into a lopsided tower. She had curly brown hair pulled into 2 loose pigtails and wore a paper crown made from newspaper. When she saw Mira, her face lit up. "You're the couch princess," she said matter-of-factly. Mira stared. "Excuse me?" "You're the girl who slept on our couch. Daddy said you were cold and rained on, so we shared the warm." Mira almost smiled. "I guess I am the couch princess then." "I'm June," the girl added proudly. "And today is Friday, which means breakfast is toast day. But sometimes we also burn the toast. It's a tradition." From behind the stove, Noah turned, holding a pan that smelled vaguely of scorched eggs. "She's not wrong," he said. "You want to help? If you're good at not burning things, we could use the help." Mira stepped forward hesitantly. "I can try." He handed her a spatula and nodded toward the eggs. "Just don't flip them like a pancake. That's my move, and it never works." June giggled behind them. The 3 of them moved around the kitchen with a kind of clumsy grace. Mira dropped the spatula twice. Noah cracked a shell straight into the pan by mistake. June tried to butter the toast and smeared more on her hands than the bread, but they were laughing. Somehow, the mistakes didn't matter. When they finally sat down to eat, Mira glanced at her plate-burnt toast, lumpy eggs, bacon that looked suspiciously undercooked. Noah took a bite, nodded solemnly. Surprisingly edible. "You don't have to lie," Mira said, raising an eyebrow. "I'm not," he replied. "I've had worse. June made pancakes once with ketchup." June beamed. "He ate all of them." Mira laughed. A real laugh. The kind that caught her off guard. For a moment, she forgot she had no phone, no ID, no plan. For a moment, she just felt normal. After breakfast, while June colored at the table, Mira helped with the dishes. Noah handed her a towel and said nothing when she dried the same plate twice. "You don't have to stay," he said quietly. "But if you need another day or two, I won't ask questions." Mira hesitated, then nodded. "I could use a day or two." Noah didn't press further. Sometimes, silence was the kindest answer. Mira found herself folding towels behind a laundromat counter by the end of the week. The idea had been Noah's. He knew the owner, a sharp-eyed woman named Carla, who barely looked up from her crossword when Mira walked in. "You Jack's friend?" she asked, not even waiting for Mira's answer before tossing her an apron. "Clock starts now." The place smelled like detergent and overcooked coffee. Machines thudded in rhythm along the walls. It was warm, humid, loud. Mira had never worked a job like this. By noon, her hands were red and her back screamed with each twist. Customers came and went with baskets piled high, most ignoring her, some tossing curt complaints her way. That afternoon, she sat on a plastic crate behind the building, her apron stained and her head bowed low. She still had no working phone, no access to her accounts, no way to prove who she was or where she belonged, if she even belonged anywhere anymore. When she got back to the duplex, Noah was helping June glue feathers onto cardboard. A makeshift bird mask, Mira guessed. There was glue in June's hair and feathers on Noah's sleeves. "Long day?" he asked. Mira didn't answer. She just dropped her bag and sank onto the couch, pulling off her shoes with a grimace. Her heels were rubbed raw, blisters blooming at the edges. Noah noticed, but said nothing. The next morning, when Mira shuffled into the front hall, she found a pair of clean white sneakers waiting by the mat. No note, no comment, just shoes. They were exactly her size. Inside one shoe was a folded piece of paper. On it, written in a few simple words, "I figured your feet deserve better. If you're walking away, at least don't walk in pain." Mira stared at it for a long time. Then she put the shoes on and walked into the kitchen, where Noah was quietly pouring cereal for June. "You bribing me with footwear now?" she asked. Noah didn't look up. "If I had better tools, I'd try muffins." She shook her head. "I almost left yesterday." "I know, but I didn't. I noticed." They didn't say anything else. Sometimes that was enough. That night, as June drifted off to sleep under a blanket of stars glued to her ceiling, Mira sat on the edge of the couch folding laundry. The silence wrapped around her gently, like the warmth from a cup of tea. She wasn't sure what she was doing or where she was going. But for the first time in years, she didn't feel like running. It happened on a Thursday. Noah had picked up extra shifts at the recycling plant, and the laundromat had taken on a last-minute order from a small hotel sheets, towels, and staff uniforms by the dozens. Mira stayed late to help fold. The fluorescent lights buzzed above her, the clock above the exit ticking past midnight. Carla had left hours ago. Mira and Noah were the only ones still there, both too tired to talk, too stubborn to stop. By 2 a.m, they loaded the bundles into the back of Noah's battered pickup truck. "My fingers feel like sandpaper," Mira muttered, rubbing her palms. "You'll miss them when they're gone," Noah replied, tossing a final sack into the truck bed. The night air was cold and still. They drove through town with the windows cracked just enough to keep from dozing off. Most of the city was asleep, traffic lights blinking red at empty intersections, houses dark except for the occasional porch light. At one stop, Noah handed Mira a small bundle. Leave this on the porch. House 15. They always forget their drop-off. Mira nodded and slid out of the truck. Her legs sore. She stepped quietly toward the porch, placed the bundle down, and turned back. The porch light flicked off. A bark exploded behind her. From the side yard, a dog burst forward, big and fast. Mira stumbled back, tripping off the curb, and hit the pavement with a sharp cry. Pain shot through her wrist and knee as the dog skidded to a stop just feet away, growling. The truck door slammed. Noah was already there, stepping between her and the animal, arms out. "Back," he said firmly. The dog hesitated, then backed away into the shadows. Noah crouched beside her. "You all right?" he asked, his voice rough. "I twisted my ankle," Mira said through gritted teeth. "It's nothing." "Can you stand?" "Yeah, just give me—" He didn't wait. He scooped her up without a word and carried her to the truck. She tried to protest, but her voice faltered. He set her down gently, then slammed the door behind her. Back behind the wheel, he rubbed a hand over his face. "You were supposed to stay in the truck," he said. "It was a bag of laundry," she shot back. "I thought I could handle that." "You thought wrong. It's just a scrape, Noah." "I don't care about the scrape," he said, his tone sharp now. "I care that you could have been seriously hurt, that something worse could have happened." She looked at him, startled. For the first time since she'd met him, she saw him angry, not at her but for her. She blinked, and the tears came before she could stop them, not from the pain, but from something heavier. "No one's ever yelled at me because they were afraid I'd get hurt," she said softly. Noah didn't respond at first. Then his voice dropped. "Well, you're in the wrong house now." She laughed just once, quietly, a cracked, grateful sound. And somehow, despite the bruises, the barking dog, and the aching wrist, Mira felt safer than she had in years. The laundromat was quiet the next afternoon, sunlight slanting through the dusty windows. Mira was folding a load of clean towels behind the counter when something slipped out from the corner of a pillowcase. A thin gold chain fell against the white cotton. It shimmered faintly in the light, delicate and expensive, with a small sapphire teardrop at the center. Mira froze. She stared at it for a long time, heart hammering. She hadn't seen that necklace in weeks. She had wrapped it inside a sock at the bottom of her duffel bag, the last thing she had kept from her old life. She hadn't meant for it to end up in the wash. Before she could reach for it, Noah passed by. He stopped, eyes catching the glint of the jewel. "That," he said slowly, "isn't something a broke student carries around." Mira's hand closed over the necklace. She tucked it into her pocket. "I forgot it was there." Noah looked at her, long and quiet. "Who is it from?" She didn't answer. He took a step back, his expression shifting. "Who are you, Mira?" Her breath caught. "I'm someone who walked away," she said, "from a place where everything had a price, except honesty." "You lied." "No," she said. "I didn't tell you everything. That's not the same." "It feels the same." She turned away, her hands trembling. Her voice dropped. "Do you know what it's like to be watched every second? To be told who to speak to, where to live, what kind of person to become? I just wanted to disappear." Noah didn't respond right away. His jaw was tight. "You should have told me." She nodded. "I know." The moment stretched between them, awkward, raw. Then the front door opened. A man stepped inside, wearing a leather jacket and a ball cap. He held a phone up, scanning the room. When his eyes landed on Mira, he smirked. "There she is," he muttered. "Missing 5 days now. Daddy's offering 6 figures for a lead." Mira's body stiffened. Noah stepped forward. "You need to leave," he said. "Relax," the man said, raising his phone for another photo. "Just doing my job." Noah grabbed Mira by the wrist and pulled her toward the back door. "Go," he said under his breath. They slipped out through the rear alley, the man's voice echoing behind them. Mira's breath came in sharp gasps. "What about June?" "She's safe. She's with my neighbor. We're not going far, just away for now." Within the hour, They had picked up June from Mrs. Ramirez's house, her sleepy face tucked into Noah's shoulder, clutching a juice box. The older woman nodded silently as Noah thanked her, no questions asked. Mira watched all of it in silence. Noah was calm, focused, protective. And Mira understood, in that moment, that he had never cared who she was, only that she was safe. They returned to the house just after sunset. Noah parked a block away, scanning the street for anything that felt wrong. Mira sat beside him, arms crossed tight over her chest, her mind whirling. The porch light was off. That alone told Noah something was off. He motioned for Mira to stay put, but she was already unbuckling her seatbelt. "If someone's here for me," she said, voice calm but tired, "then I have to face it." They walked the rest of the way in silence. A sleek, black town car idled in the driveway. Two men in tailored suits stood near the front steps. The porch door was cracked open. The engine purred softly, low and expectant. Noah stepped forward instinctively, placing himself just ahead of Mira. From the doorway, a third figure emerged, older, taller, with silver hair slicked back and the air of someone who hadn't heard the word no in a very long time. "Emery," he said, voice clipped. "Come home." Noah didn't flinch. "You, her father." "I'm Richard Vance," the man replied coolly. "And you're the man who's been harboring my daughter." "I gave her a couch when it was raining," Noah said. "That's all." Richard's eyes scanned the modest house with visible distaste. "This isn't a place for her. You can't seriously believe she belongs here." "She made that decision," Noah said, jaw tight. "Not me. You can't keep her here." "I'm not keeping anyone. But I'm also not handing her over like she's a delivery." Mira stepped forward, her voice steady. "Dad, stop." Richard turned to her, tone rising. "Get in the car." "This is home," she said quietly. "No, this is where you ran, not where you belong." Noah looked at her, calm but clear. "You don't have to go." But Mira was already staring at the car. Her eyes shimmered with something that wasn't quite fear but wasn't freedom either. "I think I do," she whispered. "They're not saying it out loud, but it's never really a choice." She stepped back from him slowly, like she was afraid to make the wrong move. He didn't follow. She walked to the car, opened the door, and got in. Before closing it, she turned, her voice soft. "I'm sorry." The door shut. The engine hummed. And then she was gone. Noah stood on the porch long after the taillights disappeared. Inside, the house was still, quiet in a way that had nothing to do with silence. He turned off the porch light. The days after she left passed like slow rain. Noah worked his night shifts as usual. He came home before sunrise, walked June to the school bus, folded her laundry, made toast she barely touched. The house was cleaner than it had been in weeks. But colder, too. Une asked once where Emery had gone. He told her sometimes people leave, even if they care. June didn't press, but she stopped humming when she played. She began sleeping with the lights on again. On the fourth night, she developed a cough. Noah didn't think much of it at first, just the change in weather maybe. But by midnight, the fever had climbed. Her skin burned, her small body trembling despite the pile of blankets. He carried her to the truck in silence. At the hospital, under the white fluorescent lights, he filled out the forms with a shaking hand. A nurse took June down the hall. A woman at the desk said the words he already feared. "We'll need a deposit." Noah pulled out his wallet. $117. "I can pay the rest in a few days," he said, voice cracking. "Just help her." The woman hesitated, glancing over her screen. Then a voice cut through the tension. "I've got it." Noah turned. Emery stood just inside the entrance, rain clinging to her coat. She walked forward, calm and certain, and handed over a card. "Put it all under my name. Admission, tests, everything." The nurse typed silently. Noah just stared. Later, after June had been taken to a room just the flu, they said, but Siriush sat beside her bed, head in his hands. He didn't look up when Emery entered. "You didn't have to do that," he said quietly. "I know," she replied, sitting in the chair beside him. But I did. He let the silence hang between them. Then, with effort, he spoke again. I'm sorry, you shouldn't have had to come back like this. She shook her head. You didn't drag me into anything. I made the choice. He finally looked at her. I know you don't owe me anything, but thank you. Emery's voice dropped. You told me once that everyone deserves to walk without pain, she said. That applies to more than just feet. He smiled, barely. They sat quietly in the room, listening to the steady beep of June's monitor. Noah reached over and gently brushed his daughter's hair from her forehead. In that still moment, Emery whispered, not to him, not to herself, just aloud. I missed this. Emery stood in the marble hallway of her father's penthouse, her reflection faint in the polished floor. The view from the tall windows stretched across the city glass towers, a river cutting through steel, everything cold and expensive. She wasn't here for the view. Richard sat at the far end of the room, behind a long glass table, flipping through a newspaper. He didn't look up when she entered. I figured you'd come back, he said, once the chaos wore off. I'm not here to stay, Emery replied, her voice calm. I'm here to talk. Richard folded the paper neatly, set it aside. You're living in a dream. That man, he fixes machines for a living. You walked away from a future that most people would kill for. I walked away, she repeated, because it wasn't mine. Richard rose slowly. You gave up security. Legacy. For what? For a man who probably burns dinner 3 times a week? Emery stepped closer. For a man who makes dinosaur pancakes when his daughters had a bad dream. For someone who shows up every day, even when he's tired. For someone who listened. You love him. I do. Richard's eyes narrowed, then turned away. He poured himself a drink with quiet precision. You'll tire of it, Emery. That life, the repairs, the bills, the ordinary. She nodded once. Maybe, but I won't regret it. He didn't answer. Emery walked to the door. Her hand paused on the handle. You used to tell me money solves everything, she said, but it never solved the silence in this house. Richard looked up. I never meant to be the bad guy. She held his gaze. You're not. You just forgot how to be anything else. As she opened the door, he spoke again. Tell him he's lucky. She didn't turn back. No, she said quietly. I'm the lucky one. And then she walked out, down the long hallway, into the elevator, into the noise of the street, into her life. The knock came just after sunrise. Noah was in the kitchen, half awake, flipping pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. June's favorite. He wiped his hands on a towel and opened the door, expecting maybe the mailman, maybe Mrs. Ramirez with another borrowed casserole dish. It was Emery. She stood in the morning light, hair pulled back in a loose bun, her jacket damp with dew. In her hands was a plain brown paper bag. For June, she said softly, real blueberry muffins. The kind with actual berries, not powder. Noah didn't speak. He couldn't yet. I'm not here to ask for another night on the couch, she added. I'm here to stay, if you'll have me. He searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. There was none. We're not rich, he said, voice rough. I've had rich, she replied. I've had hotel suites and private cars and perfect table settings, but I never had a kitchen that smelled like burnt toast and warmth. She stepped inside, slowly, as if afraid the air might break. I never had a house that felt like it missed me when I was gone. Noah swallowed hard. It's small here. It's not much. It's enough, she said. It has heart. They stood in silence, and the weight of everything they had not said pressed gently into the room, not heavy, but real. A small voice interrupted from behind them. Emery? They turned to see June, still in pajamas, eyes wide, barefoot on the hallway rug. Emery knelt down. Hey, sunshine, she said, holding out the paper bag. I brought muffins. June ran forward and threw her arms around Emery's neck. Are you staying forever? Emery looked up at Noah. He nodded once. Emery smiled through tears. Yeah, kiddo, she whispered. Forever sounds good. 2 months later, on a crisp Saturday morning, the local farmers market buzzed with weekend energy. Families strolled past food stands, kids tugged at sleeves, and someone nearby played a slow guitar tune. Noah's old pickup truck had been cleaned up and converted into a food stall. A handmade sign swung gently above it. Jack's Jams, breakfasts that feel like home. Emery flipped pancakes on the portable griddle. Noah poured coffee into paper cups. June handed out napkins and stickers, wearing her paper crown from the day they met. They didn't make a fortune, but they made something better. They made mornings. Noah looked across the counter at Emery. She caught his eye and smiled, brushing flour from her cheek. And for the first time in his life, he understood that home wasn't a place. It was a choice. And he had made it. So had she.